Today on the Magnolia Shine podcast, we got a lot to talk about. We have a high school NIL bill being introduced. We'll discuss that. We'll also talk some high school basketball that we've been seeing in the past week or two, and then we're also going to discuss the idea about consolidating some JUCOs. That would be an interesting idea as well that we're going to talk about here on the Magnolia Shine podcast. It begins right now. Welcome back to the Magnolia Shine podcast. I'm your host, Trellis Williams, alongside the one and only Blake Levine. And today is Friday. And Blake, what are your thoughts? How you feeling?
Man, we got a really good show today. How about bringing in some politics, politics and sports into the show?
Right. Yeah. So look, we gotta make sure that we're careful we don't get our show taken down. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, no, it's not that hot button, but they are big things that would really have big effects on high school sports. We're gonna start off with this high school NIL idea. Now, Blake, before we get started talking about this, I do want to note that this is the case in 36 states.
Yeah,
that they are allowed to do this.
Yep.
So Mississippi's proposing doing it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so obviously there was a congressman, Harness, right? I think it was Harness that brought this idea out, and it is interesting because I think it's actually even like 46 states that have some level of allowance of NIL, and Mississippi's kind of just a straight no. Although I think that's technically a little bit wrong because I've seen Ricky Neves say, and I don't want to quote him, but I've seen kind of some stuff that he said in the past, which is, if a kid does an advertisement for a company and does the work, we can't stop a kid from doing work, right? Like, It's kind of like a de facto NIL, right? Like if your kid does a car commercial because, the car company needs a 18-year-old kid as their poster boy and he just so happens to get the job, that's okay. Because a kid can work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because kids have jobs at McDonald's, they have jobs at the local hardware store, just like throughout high school, just in a normal way.
That's right. And see, that's what I was wondering as far as this bill was concerned. If they're already allowed to do that, I don't like the idea of these schools and these booster clubs just putting money towards players to bring them there. Because here's the thing. If you also pass the school choice and you have this, you're talking about it just turns into what the college football scene's like. It turns exactly into that.
Now, he did put some protections in for that specifically, right? Because I don't know if he's a school choice guy or not. I'd have to go look. I think was he a Democrat or a Republican? I don't
he's
remember.
Democrat. Yeah,
I think he's a Democrat. So I'm guessing he was against the school choice bill anyways. But some of the guardrails he put in is you have to give the paperwork to the MHSA if you're going to do it with a kid, right? So let's say, hey, we're going to pay this kid, or pay, all the Tupelo players to come do something for us. You have to send that paperwork to the MHSA for approval to make sure that was legal, right? So it's not like, you cannot pay for technical pay for play in the sense that you can't pay a kid because he scored a touchdown, right? Like that's not in the bill. The bill actually says you cannot do X, Y, and Z. One of the interesting things that I actually kind of liked about it was, if you made over $10,000, it actually goes into a trust or a fund or an account so that you actually can't touch it till you're 18 or out of high school. So if a kid started making a lot of money, let's say it was a 5-star quarterback, right? And some of these companies want this kid on everything, right? He's just the biggest name in the state, right? Camario Taylor in high school, just a massive name, right?
Yeah.
A lot of companies would love to use because he's committed to Mississippi State. He's a local kid, all that stuff. That money, actually, he couldn't touch it till he was 18 anyways, out of high school. So it would just go all sit in an account, and he wouldn't even have it while he was playing.
Yeah, that's right. See, I think my problem with it, I actually don't like the idea of you can't pay them based on their performance. Like, to me, that's almost seems like, so they can't earn it. It has to be without merit. Is that what it is?
It's tradition. No, it's what NIL was supposed to be in the first place when it was introduced in college sports, but they had no guardrails to it, so it kind of turned into pay for play. This
Right.
State representative is trying to put in some level of guardrails, which is you have to give the contracts to the association for the MHSA. Now, I don't know how the MAIS would do it, but you have to give that in. So it would be interesting to see how that could work. Because I actually, I am in the class of high school, middle school, college, pro. If somebody wants to use your name, image, and likeness on T-shirts, or at a car dealership, I actually do think that everyone should get paid for what they do, whether you're 3 years old or 35 years old. I do think that you should be paid for your face.
100% agree with that. I think what I'm saying is that so in the bill, though, wouldn't the booster clubs be able to pay players, though?
No, I do not think so. No.
Okay, so what the bill is,
but they could, but I bet you they could pay them to do a charity event for them. I guess that would be the workaround, right? So booster club says, hey,
right,
we'll give every high school kid $100 to come show up and pass out turkeys on Thanksgiving. So instead of it being what it was, charity, that booster club says, hey, we have the Tupelo football team, we have JJ Hill here, and da da da. Well, they paid him for that event, instead of just him having to show up.
I see. So the bill's really trying to make it. I'm not saying
that's happening with JJ Hill, by the way. That was just a random hypothetical.
No, yeah, I know. I
shouldn't have even used a name.
I get the point totally. But really, this bill's supposed to be a little bit more like, hey, look, local car dealership wants to get a player on their commercial. Local player can go do the commercial, get paid for it. That's really kind of what the bill's targeting.
Right. And I believe right now you can't wear, I don't know if you can wear school colors and logos, right?
I think
with this, you could just wear a school jersey and go do it, and then you get paid for doing it, right? So that's kind of like a de facto, we want X school to be recognized on this commercial or whatever they're going to do, a billboard, right? So if you're going to make a billboard that says, come out and watch X team, and you choose 3 players from your team, those 3 players could be paid for that.
Yeah. I've seen a couple of opinions on this high school NIL thing, and one of the big problems that I saw that they had with it is just this turning into pay for play and just killing the small schools, and just especially if school choice, like let's say school choice. It looks like neither one's gonna pass to me, but let's say school choice passes and this passes. You're talking about wild west, man. Like, you're talking about everybody's just going to go to the big schools in the end.
Maybe, but I don't think that's totally true necessarily. One, because you would still have to move. All the eligibility rules in that House bill are the same. The MHSA still controls the eligibility. So let's say you used your voucher to go from one school to another. If you don't move, you still have to sit out a year for athletics.
Yeah. Okay.
So the MHSA in the House bill, we'll see how it adjusts, what the Senate does, and all that. But in that House bill that passed, the MHSA still has complete control over eligibility of players, which means that they would just keep their standard eligibility. So hey, I live an hour away from this school. I decide to go to that school. You could play for that school, but you have to sit out a year.
Right. Yeah. No, that actually makes a big difference. That's a good point
it's all
there.
The same.
So the MHSA
for sports purposes, it's actually the same at the moment in that bill. It's for the eligibility stuff. It's all the same. Now, when it comes to the educational side, it's different, but the athletic side, it would be different. Now, going from public to private, that may be a little bit different, different with regards to that bill. But no, the MHSA would still have full control.
Yeah, I'd have to look at the details of that bill to see if, like, how much if that would be something that I'd support. But if it's the idea is for these kids to be able to do sponsorships and stuff, I feel like that's totally. I mean, that's just the free market, man. That's like America.
I am all for, right. If a kid wants to get hired and he wants to wear a jersey for his local school, you should pay him whatever a fair value is. So whatever you pay Joe Blow, you pay that high school kid the same amount to do the same commercial. You don't pay him any more or less. Like, now they may pay him more because that's the whole point of NIL and how it could maybe affect, wanting to go to a certain school or not, right? Because that car dealership pays you more, if you go here. But the point being is you should be paid your fair market value. And by the way, if somebody wants to pay you extra for a commercial, then that's your fair market value.
That is true. And so that's just kind of how the market works. That'll be an interesting thing. It doesn't seem, Blake, like the school choice bill's like it's questionable whether it's going to pass or not. This one is like kind of an idea that got thrown out there, so I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it will pass. I'd put that. I wouldn't bet a mustache on it, but I feel very confident that I do not think that this is going to pass. But I will say this, and we'll talk about a bill later in this show, funny enough, since we're talking a little bit about, the legislator today and sports, is sometimes when these ideas are thrown out, though, Trellis, it doesn't pass the first time, but maybe 3-4 years it does, right? At some point, the bill has – right? Very rarely do these things get passed the first time, right? It's more of a, okay, here's the idea. We're going to work on this every single cycle. Adjust, people's thinking adjust, and then eventually it does pass, right? I mean, you talked about the school choice bill. I mean, this is not the first time that they're talking about this, right? Like that's not right. It's not like this just appeared today. So the point being about the NIL thing is maybe it is something that could pass in the future. Will it pass this year? Probably not.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story to keep our eyes on there. And then might as well just go ahead and get into the other big thing that they've been talking about, which I was shocked to see this, especially the certain schools that they were discussing. Talking about consolidating some of these community colleges in the state of Mississippi. It was really 6 schools they were trying to consolidate into being 3. You have East Mississippi and Meridian, Mississippi Delta and Coahoma, I do believe it was. And then the most surprising to me was Colin and Southwest, which to me, both of them seem like pretty healthy junior colleges there. So I'm kind of surprised by this bill. What's the thought process behind this? Do you know?
Yeah. So the idea is Trey Lamar is the one that did this. He's out of Senatobia, a Republican out of Senatobia. And his idea is that this would save money for the state and in effect actually pay the faculty and staff more. Now, one of the things that he wanted to make very clear was these campuses are not going away unless there wasn't a need for them, right? So Coahoma Community College their building would still be operating, but it would just be the Mississippi Delta Coahoma,
campus,
location, right?
Right.
So Hines has one in Pearl?
Yeah, right.
They have one in Utica?
Yeah, and Raymond.
Right. It would still be the Mississippi Delta in that building in that area would still be in use, right? But they feel like that it would cut some of the administrative stuff going on, and that it would actually save money for the state because there's such a large investment in the junior colleges. It is a little interesting. Now, I'm not going to give you, whether I think this is right or wrong, but I'm going to give you what both sides were. One side was, this is crazy, these are all proud, junior colleges. We love our program. It gives more kids opportunities, gives more athletic opportunities, which is what we talk about. The other side of this, and I've seen some people say this is actually not a bad idea. We have a lot of schools in Mississippi, in high school and in college. We have a lot of universities, a lot of colleges, a lot of junior colleges for our population. Our per capita colleges per kid is on the higher side, right?
Right.
And so is there a need, and again, this is just one side of this, is there a need for 15 junior colleges in a state of 2.8 million people?
That's a good question.
Right. That's the argument, right? Like that's what they're trying to say is like, is there a need for that? And it's not like we're cutting them in half. We're just doing 3, or we're cutting down 3, and then we're having 12 instead of 15. So that's kind of what their idea would be, and what they were hoping for, and that it would save money, and it would do that. Now it looks like, if they kept the campuses, the enrollments would be pretty the same, right? It's not like when it cut to the educational side, it seems like people would actually still get the same amount of junior college spots, right? Now, for sports purposes, you can't have a Coahoma Community College football team and a Mississippi Delta football team at that point. It's one school. There's no way the National Junior College Association is going to go for that, right? Technically a college having two? Like, right? Because I don't know anywhere where they have that. And
I don't either, but that'd be interesting. Yeah.
I just don't see how that would be actually possible, or even the National Association would even allow that for competitive sports. And I don't know if the funding would even make sense, right? The whole point was to save the money, and then we're having two football teams at the same school. Like, that seems like that would kind of go against what the point of that bill was. It's not unfamiliar with Mississippi, though, because you have to remember when it can't, because you think about Hines Community College, they merged with another junior college at one point. That's why the basketball team still plays in Utica, because the prior junior college over there was in Utica. And I don't know if you know this, but when it comes to Hines Community Colleges, they have two logos and two mascots.
They do, yeah. So the basketball is the Hines Bulldogs, and
because the school,
Raymond is the Hines Eagles.
When they consolidated, the other junior college was the Bulldogs, and they were so proud of their basketball team in Utica that Hines Community College said, "Okay, fine, we're going to have one basketball program. It will be played where the prior junior college consolidated with us, and we're going to keep the Bulldog name."
That is true.
So think about this. Let's say East Mississippi and Meridian consolidated. East Mississippi obviously has a football team. Meridian actually does not have. I don't believe they have a junior college football team. But Meridian Community College has a great baseball program. What if, they consolidated and it was East Mississippi and they still had their powerful football team, but Meridian was the location of the baseball team and they were still the Eagles?
Yeah, it's probably could be something like that.
But it would be the East Mississippi Eagles at the Meridian campus.
Right.
In this bill, the way that it would go down.
Right. So what's interesting with Hines is that in Utica, that campus, that used to be Utica Junior College, and it was an HBCU. And so Hines was just the junior college. There was Hines Community College, and then they were able to merge, and now it's Hines on both of them. I think that's kind of how Coahoma and Mississippi Delta would be, because Coahoma is an HBCU as well. So I think that I've seen some comments on that talking about how these certain ones are HBCUs and this and that. I don't know how Meridian and East Mississippi are. I think for me, I was more surprised about Colin and Southwest that was proposed than I was about the other ones.
Yeah, I know. I mean, those are two really nice campuses too.
I know, they're real nice. Yeah.
Yeah, they're super pretty.
Yeah, so I was real surprised about that. So, like, that's interesting that they kind of snuck that one in there, too. Because I feel like the other two pairings, I could see that happening. Because you see that there are enrollment struggles with some of those, particularly Coahoma as well as Meridian. I know that they have their certain struggles. And so I wasn't surprised that would be thrown out there. Colin and Southwest was the one that surprised me.
A little bit. Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I mean, I know some people were joking that, like, how come Northwest, where Trey Lamar is, how come that wasn't one that was willing to consolidate with, say, Coahoma?
Right, yeah. But yeah, that's interesting, folks. I don't know if this is actually would be happening, just like you said, Blake.
I don't think there's going to be enough support for this one now. I think
this go around. This
one's going to die. I think that, yeah, I think the idea of consolidation is something that Mississippi has seen in the high school level, and I assume it will go up at some point.
Right, and I gotta say, Blake, I know we're not talking school choice today, but if the school choice thing passes, we're gonna see a lot of that. We're gonna see a ton of consolidations. I'm telling you, it's gonna be a lot of it.
Again, I'll see when the bill is passed.
Right.
It's hard for me to have a comment until that.
Right. So All right, so folks, that's our political discussion here for the Magnolia Shop podcast. But now we got some basketball to talk about, and I kind of wanted to actually talk some games today, Blake. I know you probably have some stuff you want to talk about with basketball as well, but I know that last night, just jump right on in. We saw a big one, Canton and Ridgeland, which was an interesting one. These are teams that, according to different outlets, ranked top 5, both of them, or at least top 10. And they're both in the same region, but same district. First time they played, Ridgeland won. This time, Canton beats Ridgeland 66-61 last night. I thought that was pretty interesting there. Man, both those teams are very, very good teams. And to see them split like that in districts was pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's one of the best districts in the state, regardless of classifications.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about just some of the schools that are in that district. Look, Canton is, at the end of the day, they move up a classification, but they were back-to-back champs in 5A. And not only were they back-to-back champs in 5A, arguably 2 years ago, some people had them number 1 overall, or maybe it was last year. So Canton was viewed as one of the best teams in the state. They lose Jamarian Davis-Fleming to Mississippi State, and somebody that's playing immediately at Mississippi State. No matter how bad Mississippi State may be playing, the reality is that kid's, getting minutes as a true freshman. That kid was such an amazing player, so people thought there would be a drop-off. But one of the really cool things about Canton and how I felt about them in prior years was he was their undisputed best player. But, man, some of those guards are athletic. They get after it.
Right.
And defensively, they can really stymie you to get into your offense. And it looks like Ridgeland still was able to put up 61 points, so it's not like their offense, went silent. But Canton being able to score 66 points is very big for them because their defense is always good. So the fact that they're putting the ball in the bucket at that rate is really good. They got the kid Creation, as he's developed. He's a Mississippi State football commit, but man, that kid's as quick, as bouncy as there's going to come.
Right. So Canton, obviously, they're a heavy contender there in 6A as well as Ridgeland. That region also has Callaway, Neshoba Central. And then they have Warren Central, and then there's somebody else in there. Is it Greenville? I think this year.
No. Is it Greenville? Yeah, that might be right.
It used to be Columbus, but now it's Greenville.
Yeah. Greenville's usually pretty solid.
Yeah. So it is a pretty good region, even in a kind of a down year for Callaway, but still very tough region there. I wanted to turn our attention to this one, too, this little 7A action. Saw Northwest Rankin and Pearl. Northwest Rankin really took it to Pearl, 73-43 win there. Deshaun Dillon's been doing some really good stuff. I've seen some clips from his playing, and, I mean, you're just talking about a really athletic player. You're talking about one of the best athletes around.
Yeah.
He's a heavy recruit as a wide receiver and a basketball player, so that's very impressive. But I will say another thing I noticed here was Pearl. I thought Pearl was going to have a little bit of a better season. Do you know anything about Pearl or where they are? Yeah.
No, they're struggling because did they get blown out by Meridian too?
Yeah. No, Pearl's in bad way, and they've lost to some 5A teams. I saw they had some really close games with 3A schools. I know that they barely beat Crystal Springs one time. I was
they
like,
got some good players. They got some players too. I mean, it's not like they don't have players.
They had a Dandy Dozen.
Right, exactly. And when you have one, you should be really good. When it comes to Deshaun Dillon, it's funny because I'm pretty sure some of the college coaches, like Jeff Levy, were on campus either Wednesday or yesterday. So, he's talking to Jeff Levy and then going out there, getting buckets, later in the day. The kid's going to play wherever he wants to play. If he wants to play basketball or if he wants to play football, he's going to have his option. Now, this is going to sound really crazy because he's one of the best players in the state for basketball. I think he's a better football player. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. Well, the thing about basketball and football is that with basketball, and Deshaun Dillon, what was he? Is he 6'3"? Is that how tall he is?
Yeah, and he's a junior. I think most people consider the two big boys, Funches and Dampier, probably the two best players in the state. And then Dillon has an argument to be in that third guy in that top three. He has an argument.
And what we're talking about here is you're talking about two guys that you just mentioned in Funches and Dampier. They're 6'11", man.
I mean, they're 7-footers. They're 7-footers.
Yeah. So 6'3" is a small player. at the top SEC level.
It's a point guard now. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it used to be 6 foot. 6 foot used to be a point guard, but now it's gotten to that 6'2", 6'3" range. So he has to be a point guard,
right?
And it's this is going to be a math equation right now. There are more people in this world in the 6 to 6'3" range than 6'3" to 6'6" range to 6'6" to 6'9", 6'9" to 7. Right. Like there's just more human beings that are men that are 6 foot to 6'3". He competes with a lot more kids at that across the country, right? So Sam Funches, who's 6'11", 6'9", he competes with a smaller group of kids that are that big. Because there's only so many of those kids that are that size, right?
Yeah.
Jason Dillon is recruited against other 6 foot to 6'3" players. That's the toughest one to be a part of because there's just more humans that are that size.
No, exactly. So you'd expect him to probably end up playing football, but we don't know, man. He might just love basketball. He might love basketball more. We'll have to see. He doesn't have to make that decision now. He's a junior. And so he's just balling. He's just having a good old time.
I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example of a kid that was an unbelievable basketball player, but decided on football. Caleb Cunningham was the ¡1 football recruit last year. Goes to Ole Miss as a freshman last year, and I assume he didn't enter the transfer portal, so he's going back. Caleb Cunningham was an unreal basketball player. He could have played at a Jackson State, an Alcorn State, or somebody, somewhere in the SWAC, maybe even a Southern Miss in the Sun Belt. But at some point, just for him and his size of that 6 foot to 6'3" range, football made a lot more sense. Because if you're 6'3" as a wide receiver, you're actually on the big end.
Right.
Of wide receivers.
Right. No, most definitely. So that's kind of what you deal with there. So moving along a little bit, we see Germantown and Madison Central. Now, Germantown was able to get the win. That's kind of that's
Sam.
A rivalry right there. Oh, okay. So now tell us what's going on. What's going on there? Did he get hurt or?
I don't want to comment, but he's not.
Never mind.
But he's not playing at the moment.
Yeah, never mind. Yeah, okay, so Germantown, hey, they're able to win without him. I didn't know that they didn't have him. So Germantown beats Madison Central. And so, the thing about Germantown is I know that they've had some things where they've had guys not play. If you're the Mavericks, what you want to have is everybody there in early March when it comes to the finish, and they can really win the championship if that's the case.
100%. So we've talked about Starkville being the favorite, right? I mean, I think you agree. I agree. Okay. What makes Germantown so scary is when the game slows down, we have Sam Funches. We have a 6'11" guy that can control the paint and can get us a few easy buckets. Because when we're talking about the game slowing down, because there's no shot clock, so there's no way you can stop this, right? If we had a shot clock, we'd be having a different conversation of the slowing the game down thing, right? Because at some point we have to shoot the ball. If Germantown slows the game down and Starkville doesn't get good looks from the outside or their threes aren't hitting and they just can't attack the rim the same way because Sam is, protecting the paint, there's no three in the key for a defender in high school, Germantown is built for the playoffs because of their size and the way that they're actually better in a slow, methodical game. So I think Germantown's super scary for that. I mean, look, again, when you have a 6'11" kid, when the game slows down, you have the advantage.
You do. So that'll be an interesting thing to see as we keep up with Germantown there. I will have to I want to shout out some of these JPS schools because we have three really good ones this year.
Jim Hill, Lanier, really good.
Jim and Murrah.
Murrah
just beat Oxford last night, 49-45. So that's a big win for them.
Serious. I'm happy to see Murrah. I'm happy to see Murrah back because they got a proud program.
They do, and they're the biggest JPS school, and it's good to see them doing well. Callaway having a little bit of a down year. Forest Hill and Provine actually having kind of rough years, and so
here's the thing.
We'll see how they do.
Lanier is the one JPS school, as these JPS schools have kind of struggled in basketball in the last 5 years. Provine had a little good year, recently too. I think they made it to the big house. But the point being, Lanier's been the most consistent of the JPS schools since, maybe the last
as far as the
7
program's
years.
concerned.
They've been the most. I'm happy to see Jim Hill and Murrah really take that step, back into some excellence. I think Jim Hill could win a title if everything felt right. I understand that they played a tough, in a tough class. But I think if Jim Hill, if everything fell right for them and they really hit their stride, they got hot. I think that's a scary, scary team.
I would agree with you. I think that they do have a shot for sure. I do think that they'd be on the outside looking in, just dealing with some of those teams like we just talked about, Ridgeland and Canton. I'd put them ahead, but at the same time, though, I mean they have the ability to beat those level of teams. We've seen that consistently. Right. And Jim Hill right now is undefeated in their district, and they're in the district with Terry, and Terry's been doing well except for the loss to Jim Hill. So you'd expect to see, some good things there, but just like you were saying about Lanier, they've been streaking in the right direction. They just beat Holmes County Central a couple of nights ago.
Big. Yeah, that was big.
Which is good, and so that means they swept Holmes County Central, who's a very good team, as we've seen.
Right, and that pretty much locks them into that 1 seed, at least for the district tournament.
That is right. So that'll be interesting to see as well. But Blake, as far as you look across the basketball landscape, we also see West Union continue to do very well at the 1A level. But what are some other teams that have been popping up to the surface for you that you've been like, man, I've been pretty impressed with them and how they played, maybe from the smaller schools?
This is going to sound really funny because it shouldn't be this way. Raymond has found their stride one. Go figure, right? I mean, they struggled early. I think they might have lost like 4 or 5 straight games in a row. And now all of a sudden they're blowing teams out and they've looked really good. I'm like, oh, surprise everybody. Raymond in 4A is probably the favorite right now. Again, or I'm not the favorite, but Kosciuszko and League Central are obviously 2 contenders as well.
Yeah, for sure.
The point being is Raymond. League Central has been really impressive all year. Kosciuszko as well. St. Stanislaus, Boonville, I think those are 2 powerhouses, definitely in 3A. 2A, I think, could be wide open. 2A's got a few, teams that I think could win it, and then 1A, I think it's a West Union versus the field kind of deal.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's funny that you mentioned it. Like, hey, look, this sounds crazy, but Raymond, how about that for a surprise? No, but still, though, I mean, you're just at. And, I'm very familiar with Raymond. I'm from very close to Raymond, and I know Coach Tadlock well. And, man, I mean, it's not easy to be that consistent. I mean, you might have a good program where you pop up to the top constantly, but you're talking about in the championship game every single year. And then now he's turning the team towards a situation where it looks like they could do the same thing again. And so
how many years have they been in the championship game in a row?
8.
Okay, think about this. They've won 8 straight Big House games, right? Because the semifinals are there. They've won 8 straight semifinal games.
Right. Yeah.
They're 8-0 in the semifinals.
And that's what Coach Tadlock is, because he became the coach. He was assistant coach the first year of the 8-year streak. Yeah, right. And he's been coaching the last 7. This is 8th year.
No, was it Robert Green? Who was it? It was someone.
I don't know I don't know the name of the coach who was head coach before him, but yeah, no. And look, when I was playing, we played in a summer game against him right when he started coaching. So I remember him that was his first year coaching, and man, they've been good every single year. So definitely credit to him. Need to get him on an exclusive interview here for the Magnolia Shine podcast. Speaking of
that's a good idea.
Yeah. Speaking of that, we had Coach Lawrence Clark of Lanier, which is extremely relevant how well they're doing. Interviewed him on their basketball floor. It's actually my first trip ever at Lanier, so you should go check that out. And you should subscribe to the Magnolia Shine podcast, because if you hit the subscribe button, turn the notifications on, you'll know what's going on in high school sports. We continue our coverage here. The one and only Blake Levine alongside myself. But before we get out of here, got to call out the sponsor, because that is my bad on not mentioning it earlier, and we'll have the lower third up earlier as well. So Austin Graham, he is your guy for home as well as life as well as auto insurance. That's your guy. His phone number's on the screen right now. We appreciate Austin Graham. He is our sponsor for this podcast. He makes it all happen. We appreciate him, and he also will take care of you in terms of your insurance needs. The one and only Blake Levine alongside myself, Trellis Williams. Till next time, we out.